There are so many myths on the internet, and the documentation says that this is made for this specific purpose, but when actually you go into the production, you will get to know the lot of problems with that specific functionality or the documentation they specified it here. And also there are some other videos in the internet or YouTubes that are going to tell you that there's going to be solving this problem, or this one is made for this specific reason. But when exactly you're putting into the systems or to the production, you'll come across a lot of production issues. So from my experience, I'm just going to share you the information about what purpose is made for and what exactly use cases you can go for this specific side effects. So without wasting much time, let's dive into the video now. First thing we're going to talk about is the side effects. So as per the documentation, the side effect is nothing but the publish a composed state to a composed code. Usually the people used to say that we can go for a side effects whenever you do the analytics, which means whenever the recompositions happen, we want to send some analytics data to the server, definitely we can't go for a side effect. That's a myth we have, but definitely I can argue here we cannot use a side effect for analytics. Why? Because we know like composition can be happen for multiple reasons. So when you go out of the screen and if you render the screen again, if something has happened, like if you go background and come foreground, that time also side effect going to be recomposition going to be happen. So as there is a no defined way that recomposition happen as per the documentation, as per the analytics, we wanted to understand like when exactly one thing's happen. If you add the side effects and if you add analytics code inside the side effects, if it's rendered for multiple reasons, and analytics might be having a number of duplicate data, right? So yeah, unnecessarily we are trying to using analytics APIs, then we pushing unnecessary data to the analytics. Okay, so that was my argument. Is means so this display screen can be happen for can be recomposed for multiple reasons. I told you before, like for example, if I have votes, if I increase the vote by 1, you can see the side effects get called because we are just re-rendering this page. I can write so voting page by 1 by increasing the count by 1. So if I happen this one, then also you could see this compositions happen again, and side effects has been called again. Okay, even if I go out of this navigation, you could see this composition has happened here. Okay, why? Because this composition is something like happen even if you do the recompose and even if you go out of the screen, so which is typically wrong, right? If I, let's say if I put analytics saying that display screen has happened, you could see this, there are 3 display screens happen. The count should be 3 in the analytics perspective, but actually it's happened only once, right? So if I coming back, you could see this side effect has been called 2 times. So having this kind of miscellaneous behaviors or unpredictable behaviors, I could see this. Don't use side effect for any reason I could argue that. So next we will go for the launched effect. So as per the documentation, they said run suspendable function in the scope of composable. So launched effect, when you use the launched effect, by default is going to give some coroutine scopes to us. Okay, so if you want to execute any suspendable functions, actually we need a coroutines to do that. For example, let's say I have a long running task. Okay, so if you look at this, it says that suspendable function long running task should be called only from coroutines or another suspendable function. Because it's a suspendable function, it can be called only from another suspendable function or from the coroutines. Okay, so having this such a scenarios, you can go for this launched effect where you can give the unit or true. Actually unit and true, the people used to say that when I give unit or true, they believes that this specific launched effect will be called only once, so they safely assume that it's equal to on create, or some people they assume that it's related to on receive for the specific composable things. But please do understand that composable doesn't add something on create or on receive, and launched effect is not made for that for sure. Okay, so launched effect, as per the documentation, launched effect will be called only once per composition, and if it's a recomposition happen, it won't be called for sure. That's what they mean. Okay, for that too, they only doing it for unit or true cases. Okay, so if it's a unit or true, you may think or assume like it's as equivalent to on resume for other scenario like a fragment kind of scenarios. Comparatively, you can assume that it's like a unit. If it's a unit or true, you may assume that it's kind of on resume, but there is one edge cases here. The launched effect not only can listen for this unit or true, but it can also listen for this kind of data as well. For example, if I put a on resume here and launched effect here and say it's listen for the votes, which means whenever the vote is gets changed, this specific things has to be launched here. So if I put this code here, then it is not neither on create or on resume kind of scenario, right? Whenever the vote get changed, this specific line number 94 will be called automatically. So this is what I could say, like it's not on create or on resume as per the myth or the documentation. Somebody says that it will be called only once. No, that's not a one. And even if I put a unit, it may be considered as on resume for sure. And you can use for a launched effect when you want to use any suspendable functions. To call the suspendable function at least once, or some if something gets changed here. So for example, if you're listening for data, if that data gets changed, if you want to call the specific functions, definitely you can go for a launched effect. That's a two scenario I could think of it at the moment. For example, I'm just running this application. You could see that if I leave the screen, if I coming back, you could see the launched effect will be called. And yeah, this is only for unit. Okay, if I listen for this votings value, you could see that it will be called a number of times, like whenever, as and when vote is changed, because it's made for to listen this specific keys, and something happened to this specific key, you could see that that specific code is getting executed. Oh, so for some reason it's beginning very early now. So I'm running the app again. Let's see what's going on here. I'm putting the vote. Oh, never, man. What happened? So here, oh, okay. The one problem here is like we have to add the value here. If you're not listening for the value, this could be the problem here. I could see that. So you have to have the values here so that it will be listen for the values, and then it just perform this launched effect, because reference will be same for all the times, right? So we are just looking for the values here. So now you could see, like running the app, once it's launched, you could see that whenever the values get changed, this is gonna be putting the value here. So what you could see, the launched effect will be called for every time, right? So as and when the specific things are getting changed. Okay, perfect. That's why I usually use for a by year, but okay, that's okay. Let's proceed. Next is a remember coroutine scope. As I told you before, like if you want to call any suspendable functions, either here, maybe inside the side effects, anywhere side effects or some other functions, you're supposed to use for the coroutines. Okay, for example, let's take a use case of this one. Whenever I just click the voting button, I just want to invoke the long task. In that specific scenario, you could see that long task is a suspendable function. So if you invoke the suspendable function, we need to have the coroutines. Okay, so to get this specific composable coroutines, you just have to use this things like val coroutines, and you could see like remember coroutines. By doing this way, you can able to access this specific composable coroutines, and then using that coroutines, you can able to launch the specific task. So coroutine dot launch, by doing so you can able to launch this specific task here. Okay, so as this mean is, like when you just go out of the screen, we expected this coroutines to be cancelled this task, but practically it won't be happen for sure, because somehow this specific state has been maintained inside the stack. Okay, even when you go out of this one, this specific coroutine will not be cancelled this operation immediately. It has to have this operation, the background threads or background backstack or somewhere else, it keep executing this one, but it gonna be cancelled this one when the backstack removing this specific entire view out of the screens. Okay, I can show you that one. What I exactly mean is, so by this specific point in time, I'm just removing this one. Let execute the screens. You could see that I just added this one long task here. Okay, so which means when the user clicks this one voting, the long task is scheduled and I'm just moving out of this page. So my assumption is that this long task should not be executed because I'm just moving out of the screen, right? As per the documentation, the composition ends over there. As composition as completely ends and launching the another page, this coroutine is supposed to cancel this specific task, but it's not happening because this earlier screen, the previous screens be there in the stack. Okay, yes, they are in the stack. The coroutines keep maintaining that specific reference and keep there in the backstack for a long time. So that's why this task is not get cancelled. But typically when this specific like a previous screens go out of entire memory, definitely this gonna be a cancel for sure. Okay, that's not happening at the moment, but we'll find some way. Maybe in the navigation we'll have to use that backstack, like removing the backstack. Those kind of things need to be set and need to check this one out. Okay, so we completed with the coroutine scopes as well. Next we'll go for the remember update state. So for this I take a help of this documentation. This is a perfect edge case I could think of. Let me go here. Actually this update state has been introduced newly. Actually earlier it was not there. They introduced this in an actually to 1.0.4 of Jetpack Compose. The reason for made this one is, let's say I have a lifecycle owner and just wanted to have two functions has to be called, one for onStart and another is onStop. Okay, I'm just listening for the lifecycle events. When the lifecycle event is onStart and onStop, I just wanted to call these two functions for sure, and then my lifecycle is I'm just observing for the lifecycle, and dispose I'm just removing this lifecycle. Okay, this is a simple code. Okay, here why I introduce this remember update status, as this gonna be called every time whenever users go, whenever the screen is re-render or screen is going to the next screen coming back, this lifecycle event will be keep firing it. Okay, let's say if I wanted to add some thread here, like wait some operations to be waited, once that operation is completed I just wanted to invoke this callback. In that scenario you may not be in the same screen for a long time, right? You may be navigated to the next screen like this, but as you do it for a multiple times, you might be ending up with invoking, you might be ended up with be having the new callback function could be here, like onStart would be having a new callback functions. Okay, but if you are not using the remember update state one, you will be executing the old callbacks whatever is provided earlier. Okay, in case if you want to have the updated callback functions, definitely you need to go for this way, like you just use current onStart by and then use the remember update by onStart in such a way that by doing so you will be ensuring that this callback has updated information always, and this will be get fired whenever the callbacks need to be fired. Okay, the next one is the disposable effect that gives you the chance to clear if you want to do some operation the effects, and then on end of this, like when the screen is goes off and going into the next screen and screen got removed, which means composition ends. If you want to clean up something, you can go for this disposable effect. So when you use the disposable effect, you will be having some callback function called onDispose. This onDispose will be fired when the specific screen goes out of it, for exactly goes out of this specific one. For example, I have a two screens here, and one is this voting screen, another one is the result screens. So when I press the result one, definitely this onDispose will be get fired, and it will do the needful things here. Okay, that's understanding is. So if you look at the disposable effect, it has some functions where we just adding the observer and observing for this life cycle events. Okay, and when this screen goes off, which means goes into the backstack or removed it, or if you use a clicks on this like a home button, this specific screen will go off, right? In that specific scenario, you could see that onDispose will be get fired, and then this specific function is get called. Okay, so if you need any cleanup after doing some effects, definitely go for the disposable effect. Otherwise, you just use it for a launched effect. That's more than enough. Okay, the next one is a derived state. Derived state of is used to convert one or multiple state object into the another state. So this means like let me take an example of mine. It will be easy for you to understand. So here I have one state which is nothing but a votes, which is in a integer state, right? So if we want to convert that specific state into another state, which is nothing but a boolean variables, which is exceeded. So this exceed is calculated based on that state values, right? Votes, I'm taking the votes value and I'm checking it's greater than or 4, which means I just wanted to consider I wanted to have the maximum of 4 votes. In that scenario, I'm just doing this calculation and coming with this specific state, which is nothing but is exceeded. So also let me add some more additional examples saying that let's say if I want to add a more condition, let's if the current date is 27th of February, then I need to stop this voting. So by adding this additional conditions, which means this complication, this specific operation became bigger, right? It has to do a lot of operations like date conversions and checking the dates, as well as checking the vote counts and all. Okay, so as you know that this composable function may be composed n number of times. If you putting this things outside, for each and every composition, this specific calculation will be happen for sure, right? So to stop that one, like I don't want this calculation to be happen until otherwise there is some changes in the observable variables. For example, if I say votes, if votes get changed or date get changed, then I could say that this specific derivation to be happen and updated value to be here. Okay, so for that scenarios, to do such a complex operation, you can go for the complex calculation, you can go for a different derivative state. As I told you before, this can be it takes one state, like here it takes this integer, and also in future it will take a dates. So by adding these two, by adding like these two, and is using the derivative state to convert these two into the another state, which is nothing but the boolean is exceeded. And this exceeded can be used anywhere by saying that voting count is exceeded for 4. For example, if I use, you could see that it's got turned to true, right? So that's the reason I made for this. Okay, this is for derivative state. And next is a produce state. This is a more interesting one, like it's convert the non-composed state into the composed state. So I had an example for this one for sure. So here what I'm taking, it's this specific produce state keep producing some data for me to be consumed. For example, by default produce state has some value in it, like a 0. After one minute of delay, I'm just increasing this value by 1. So which means at this moment this timer will be triggered once, and after 1 minute, after 1 second, it's gonna increase this value by 1. Okay, let's say if I want to keep producing the data, like I want to have a ticker kind of things, I could say like ticker for ticker till it's this timer as reaches sorry, this value reaches under seconds. So by doing so, for it will wait for one second and keep producing this, increasing the data by 1. By doing so, this timer will be invoked, and it will be ticked for each and every second. I can show it to you by adding this here. Just produce timer. You could see this log. if I execute it, you could see this ticker is happening for a number of times, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 times. It will happen for a number of times for sure. So that's what they said, like they are taking convert a non-composed state into the composed state. So typically this one is a non-composable state, this one is a non-composable state, and then if we are converting this non-composable state into the composable state, like just a timer, and that's gonna be added here. Okay, and the next one is like snapshot. Typically this typically we have a view model that has a flows, and we will be having in the composable we have like a compose collect as state, right? We are taking the flow and converting that flow into the composable state, right? This is a straightforward approach. So this one state flow is right opposite to that. It takes a composable state and convert it into the flow. It's a reverse operation of it. So for better understanding, I just take an example of this one. Yeah, they have a list of state, which is like, remember, lazy list state, and then it's added to the lazy columns. Okay, whenever you just call your lazy list, this specific state will be get changed automatically. Okay, and then we have a snapshot flow that listen for the first visible item index, which means when you scroll it up, this index will be changed for every time whenever the view is called up. Okay, and then we are mapping it into the index. If index is greater than 0, and then we are distinct until changed, and then we are taking whether it is true or not. If it's a true, which means you are just call it up, then we are taking this composable state and we are converting into the flow by using this one, and then we are collecting it. And then here, whenever the state got changed, you could see that this specific collect will be get fired, or we collecting those data and then putting into the server for some other reason, saying that we are no more showing the first visible items. Okay, so snapshot used for that purpose. It takes a composable state and convert it into the flows. That's what it's made for here. Okay, that's all I have at the moment. So let me know if you guys have any questions or any comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching the video. Jai Bhim. Bye bye. Good luck.